You gotta be wondering what the hell you clicked into. So this guy is telling you Kraken Slayer, the item that every pro builds, is not the item to rush anymore. Well, kinda right. So we have a buff on Yunara, right, which is going to increase her AD growth. And there is this item that is kind of sneaking into as a first rush, and that I'm also been building in my last few games. If we sort this out by best players only, there's actually a game where Viper is alluding to the build I'm going to refer you to, which is this one. We have C44 Rush, which feels a bit awkward, right? Because it has no attack speed, into Phantom Dancer. He's also using these Gluttonous Griefs instead of Berserker Griefs, the boots. We'll get there when we get there. But basically, you can get a lot more attack speed from the Shard, from Alacrity, and from Debo. So there's all these tools that allow C44 to be a more viable rush on Yunara because, well, you know, with Doran's Blade, C44, you feel like you really lack the attack speed. But well, now we have Bow, you have some extra attack speed that you can get off of your runes as well. And then you can also get Phantom Dancer instead of Fiend Hunter, and you get even more attack speed, and it kind of compensates for what Kraken usually brings. So what's the upside of doing this is that you get your crit chance earlier, you get your 4-item spike with 100% crit, and from there you can go for your situational items a lot sooner. Alright, so here I sorted on Lolalytics, Yunara games and Emerald Plus over the last 30 days, and something that we can see that, you know, pros always love their Kraken Slayers. Don't forget, they also build like Kraken Slayer and Jinx and Ashe in pro play, but something that makes Kraken feel really good is that the win rate when you get it below 10 minutes is pretty strong. And if you get it even earlier than 10 minutes, it's likely going to go up. However, even for C44, it's also 61. It's a bit above the Kraken Slayer threshold already. Now, the sample size is a lot lower than the Kraken Slayer games, right? So there's that to keep in mind. But even if you just go through data points and we try to see the win rates on this item, you have 8k games over the last 30 days where C44 is outperforming Kraken Slayer. Like, for example, this one is much lower, right? But it's just an item that whenever you build it, whichever slot it goes in, it's just a high win rate item. Why not just open up with it? You just get it first item, you get its passive going with the extra range. It's just a great item to have. And on top of that, we can also check Coachless, which has this win probability added when you build these items. And if you go C44 first, which also again just keeps popping in every other item slot, you can rush this first, you can get your Phantom Dancer. If you're into a melee comp, you can go Runins as well if you want, and from there you build your Infinity Edge, your LDR, whatever, yada yada, situational items. Amazing. So to get the attack speed that you're missing out from Kraken Slayer to work out, you take Alacrity and you take that attack speed shard. That way you can compensate for that lack of attack speed that you would feel and that, you know, we love from Kraken Slayer, as well as just stop building Berserker Greaves altogether to compensate for that. As these armor shoes or the lifesteal shoes are just far better. You can just see their performance. Whenever you can get either of these, you should plan it out. One thing to keep in mind is that if you're going for these plated steel caps, you probably want to go Bloodline on runes. However, if you know you're going lifesteal shoes, you can probably get away with Alacrity, get that extra attack speed earlier, and the game feels a little bit better. Alright, so your first item would pretty much be Doran's Bow every time. If you can squeeze Cull into your build, it's also fine. I know it delays your cash back a little bit, but don't forget Cull works fantastic with Yunara, and you're also scaling into the late game a bit sooner, right? Now, you delay a little bit your first item spike, but your second item spike on getting Phantom Dancer is even earlier. And with cashback runes as well, you're kind of just tax evading a little bit. You get like your PD maybe 17, 18 minutes into the game, and then you can get in your Infinity Edge maybe 24, 25 minutes into the game, and you'll be way ahead of the curve, which is great. And when you're ahead of the curve, it means your impact in team fights is a lot stronger, all of that good stuff. So we should add C44 as our first item. It's going to be that. And then as far as our shoes goes, we're gonna go Gluttonous Greaves or Plated Steel Caps if you're fighting into like Assassins plus ADC, all of that type of burst damage. You know, maybe an AD Bruiser top, maybe it's full AD, depending on your comfort. But sometimes these shoes are really good. Again, do pair this with Bloodline. Otherwise, you can go Alacrity for the attack speed and you get all your vamp off these shoes. As for the Zeal item, you can go Phantom Dancer most games. However, if you're going into against melee comps or like comps where you think they're going to be grouped together, clumped together, or like, for example, you have Diana ults that are just going to join them together, clump them as well, then you can go Runins as well. Very strong into all of this AoE stuff going on. But again, PD, more stats. It's really good. then it's going to be Infinity Edge third most games. You could also go Lord Dominic's Regards. I'd avoid building Mortal Reminder if you can, but some games you have to be the one that buys the anti-heal, but your damage is just a lot higher when you run Lord Dominic's Regards. But it should be Infinity Edge third into Lord Dominic's fourth if you can. And from here, you can start to cook a little bit more with the situational items. Sometimes you will need a QSS. Sometimes you are going to go from Vamp into choosing which item you want to go. It can be Hextech Gunblade, for example. This item has more AP than Bloodthirster, for example. And if your team has a lot of attack damage, then you can squeeze this extra AP, mix your damages up a little bit, and you already have your 100% crit, right? So by having this extra AP, it still increases the damage from your passive, and you're doing more AD AP damage overall, mixing your damages around and making it more difficult to itemize against your damage as well. There's also going to be a Bloodthirster. Maybe your team is more AP centric. You just go Bloodthirster, get that AD, get that shield going. So you can go for either of those, and obviously you can upgrade the Scimitar from QSS. And then there's also your revive effects, either from Seekers into Zhonya's or Guardian Angel. Here, you kind of just pick whichever you like the most. You can go wrong with GA sometimes if you, for example, you get, Caitlyn trapped or something, but the same happens for Zhonya's. So, you have to manage a little bit how you want to go. I think you can go either. Usually win rate on Guardian Angel is better than Zhonya's on Yunara, but sometimes just having the ability to go Seekers, use the Seekers into Zhonya's, it can just decide games too, depending on how you use these items, so I would consider that as well. Hybrid itemization is a lot easier when you already have that 100% crit built in, and you don't have to worry about having your Kraken Slayer there, and you're kind of wondering how to use this item. Another viable option is also having Blade of the Ruin King as one of the 5th, 6th items, which usually Bork is more of a rush item, which I totally get. But later into the game, maybe you're fighting against a Scion, a Mundo, Cho'Gath, all of those guys. You can still not go Gunblade or Bloodthirster, and your lifesteal item instead becomes Bork, while you do a lot more damage to those big tanks between your LDR and between your Blade of the Ruin King. You're just gonna completely melt and do crazy amounts of damage. So this is also an option if you want an easier build path. So again, we start with our Doran's Bow and our 2 pots, right? From here, we evolve into our Call. We want to pick this up so we can get our second item a bit sooner. We have a cheap first item in C44. The boots we want to rush are going to be the lifesteal ones or the armor ones. We get our Zeal item, our Infinity Edge, our LDR. From here, 100% crit. Now we go into the situationals, and those we adapt from game to game based on what we need. Shout out to Obnoxious as well from the Yunara Mains Discord server, who's been a Church of C44 kind of guy, and that's been super fun to talk to him about it. And yeah, it's cool to have the stats to also make up for it, and that it's good. It's just a bit unfortunate we never see pros rushing it, but it's also why C44 does not see more play. I would promise you, if there's more pros rushing this item, you have a lot more people playing it. I mean, just look at Mage's bot, right? MSI has a bunch of mages. Now every single game you have, oh crap, I guess Syndra goes bot now. Woohoo. And that does exist. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the Yunara buffs. There's also T1 Yunara skin coming out, so that's going to be really cool too. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye!